What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL Week 3 betting preview. We will talk about our favorite sides, totals, teasers, survivor picks, underdog money lines, and of course, crack open our weekly Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets. And I'm going to do it with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuck. What's going on? How you recovering from that the Wilson and Wilson debacle?
Yeah, it was the ugliest week I've ever had. I was dreading it. I didn't love the card, and it started off well. We get an over on Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
Although that was way more painful than it had to be. I thought the Justin Jefferson touchback was doomed. And then the Eagles went on like a 12-minute, 10-yard drive. But so then we get to Sunday, and we get a big favorite. Although the Raiders went 80 yards down the field in the first possession, and I was cursing our producer, and I was like, "Oh God!" But then the Bills rolled, and we got an over with San Fran, and the Rams kicking for the cover, which was funny. But then the Wilson bros, everything was going too well. Now, Zach Wilson, I'm not even going to slander him. I said I was going to slander him as a cup. I don't think it was his fault. Two things. We already knew he's terrible. He's going up against one of the best defenses in the NFL. They didn't move him around. Like, you can't sit Zach Wilson in the pocket. And the defense didn't make plays. Like, the defense had to step up there, and they didn't. I saw Gardner drop the pick six, which, maybe it changes the complexion of the game. But the defense didn't make plays. I don't know what the game plan was for Wilson. You got to move him around. You got to roll him out. You got to like Daniel Jones him. You got to give him easy throws. Didn't do any of that. So obviously he just got sat in the pocket and got killed. I was more upset with the Broncos. I went down on all of my survivors. Sean Payton was also 72-0 with an 18 or more point lead in his career. And Vance Joseph, I don't know what is going on with him. We'll talk about it later in the show. But Washington basically just came back by running screen passes. They went 8 of 8 on screen passes for like 130 yards in the second half, and they never adjusted. And there were some freak things that went on. They got to get rid of. They only have like one corner, but they already lost Stearns. Kareem Jackson gets thrown out. They bring in a rookie to play safety. He gets hurt, and then you're putting Bassey back there at corner, and he gives up the game-winning touchdown. And I'm like, why did I do this? And then they get the Hail Mary and reel me back in. And then they don't get the 2-point conversion. So, yeah, the Wilson bros was not a great experience. Although Russ, I don't blame either of them. Russ played good enough, played well enough. It was the defense. And I don't blame Zach. They didn't have a good game plan for him. The defense didn't do what I expected to do. So, I have good news. Neither are part of our six-pack this week.
Yeah, and that was painful for me too, that Dallas game. The total, I got a 39.5. It went over by a half a point. So, that wasn't ideal. But, on to week number 3. And for those asking, these episodes will always be available in full on the Action Network YouTube page. Typically posting every Thursday afternoon. So check that out if you prefer videos, but let's get right into our Thursday Night Football preview. All right, we got the Giants going to San Francisco to take on the Niners. The Niners are favored by 10. The total is 44.5. Saquon Barkley is probably going to miss this game for the Giants. What do you see here?
This is the exact game. Andrew Thomas is also out, which is big. And the Giants fans are going to say, well, our offensive line last week played well. You played the Cardinals. The Cardinals are incapable of generating pressure. Now you're going up against San Francisco. This is when I complain about Thursday Night Football, this is the game that's in my head. A 10-point favorite against an overmatched opponent that has injuries, where a bunch of guys can't play on a short week. So my number is spot on to here. From a trend, if you're into trends, like Jones as a road dog has been phenomenal. Dable, you would imagine in this spot, is probably going to cover more times than not, especially when you add on to the fact that Shanahan hasn't been great in this spot. A lot of times he's just a little bit too conservative when he has a superior team, right? Like 4th and 1 at the 12. Let me just take the field goal. I can rely on my defense. But I don't know if that's necessarily true here. The San Francisco offense, since Purdy has taken over, has been on some kind of roll. They basically score 30 plus every game. And I don't know how much resistance this Giants defense can provide. The Giants defense, I'm still I'm not high on them, but I still want to see more before I really judge them and kind of where they're at in the pecking order, because the Dallas game, it kind of just slipped away because there was a blocked field goal for a touchdown, a pick six, and then what are you going to do, right? Dak didn't do anything, right? Because he didn't have to. So that didn't really give us anything on the rookie corners look great, but the game state there was just not conducive to getting any feel. Then you play the Cardinals and you go down 28-0. That's very concerning to give up 28 in general to the Cardinals. But then the game got weird. So I don't know. I'm still trying to I still want to see more from this Giants defense before I'm I think they're the 10th worst, or they're average, or they're here, to get a better feel compared to where I have them now. But it feels like the 49ers, maybe with sloppiness on a Thursday night, maybe they don't get to 30. But it feels like almost a given that without flukes, they're going to get to 27-30, right? So you have to ask yourself, do you trust this Giants offense with a banged up offensive line, no Saquon, to get to 17-20? I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that bet. My number's right on. Happy easy pass. By the way, before you give your thoughts on it, I'll be looking out for Action Network app plug for any props that you might have, or Sean Kerner, as always, on Thursday Night Football. Someone asked me this on Twitter, because I said I'm in the minority here. I might be in the minority here, but I hate 2 Monday Night Football games, especially at the same time. I watch a million games on Saturday. We watch 12 hours football on Sunday. So I like to just have Sunday night too. I just get one game, right? It's nice to just be able to watch one game. So then someone asked me, would you rather have 2 Monday night every week and no Thursday, or 1 on Thursday and 1 on Monday? And I thought that was a really good question, because I hate 2 on Monday and I hate Thursday, but I think I would rather have 2 on Monday, just split up a little more. The thing I hate about Thursday is it's sloppier. And then just the injuries, there's just, you don't get everyone playing more. So, and I think it's there's more injury risk too on the short week. So I think I'd rather have 2 Mondays. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I would rather have 2 Mondays as well, because simply for the fact, when you're talking about fantasy, now you have to get everyone ranked, in the right spot, for the Thursday game, but in relation to everyone else that hasn't played yet, and there's still injuries. And so it's really kind of a headache. So I kind of missed when Thursday was something special, it was Thanksgiving and maybe end of the year a couple of times. And then, you had a couple of the Saturday games they do at the end of the year once college stops. Yeah. I kind of like it better.
It's like a little treat.
Right, exactly. And, I know they've been trying to make the matchups a little better. At least they're not just giving us straight up, divisional matchups every week. I thought last week's Thursday night game was pretty good.
Yes.
And the opener. So this would probably be the first bad one. But I would still prefer the 2 Monday nighters. Although I would just prefer they put as many games on that Sunday, 1 p.m. or add it to the late window, because the late window, early window usually have 8 games, and then the late window usually have 4, maybe 5. Let's just add to the late window. Get red zone is the most fun part of the week for me. Just watching red zone, so sweating a whole bunch of games at once. So yeah, that's what I would do.
Do you have anything in this game?
No, I'm projected minus 9.5, 45. So I'm right on here. The Giants are the pick by the trends, but it's Thursday. We always talk about this. Superior teams, the superior team usually has the edge, especially on Thursday. Now you're talking about the Giants' best offensive player out. This is probably going to be a blowout for San Francisco. So it's just a stay away from me. I don't want to lay double digits either. I
would lean under if you can if it pops to 45 or above if you're looking for a play, but keep an eye out on any props on the app.
All right, yeah, let's go into the 6-pack.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday 6-pack.
All right. And for our week 2 6-pack, we went 3-3. Those Wilson brothers let us down, as did the Bears. Never again. That was just a pick six on a screen pass after they just threw a screen pass. Just ridiculous. One of the worst, if not the worst, coach team in the league. And
they don't even know if they have coaches. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
when we talk about the Bears.
It's ugly, but it's 9-6 me on the 6-pack. Again, we do two points for our first two, a point for our third, another point for our total, and another point if you sweep everything. For the first pick of the week 3 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons plus 3.5 at the Detroit Lions. And this is a mix of injuries for the Lions, and I like the spot for the Falcons. So injuries for the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown is banged up. Their left tackle, Taylor Decker, is probably going to go on IR. Vitae, the guard, he's injured as well. And then CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was a big addition to that secondary, not only in terms of skill level, but just overall kind of attitude and swag. Because remember, this was one of the worst defenses in the league. Terrible secondary. And CJ Gardner-Johnson came in, and I think he, helped them start getting back to where they need to be, or getting to where they need to be. So he's out now. So just a lot of injuries for Detroit and to a lot of good players. I do think Amon-Ra plays, but he may not be 100%. And this Falcon team, their defense is better, which, something we expected. They could get a little more pressure now than they've been in the past. Their secondary is a little better than it's been in the past. And I think the Falcons can stay closer. And I think the Falcons can get the win. It's kind of like the Seahawks last week. Everyone's like, oh, my God, they have no tackles. It's like, all right, their tackles are like average at best. But the Lions are still kind of just like teetering on, like, are they really good, or are they just kind of like another one of these teams that you have to lump in with the Falcons and the Packers and the Saints and all these other NFC teams? From what I'm seeing, especially with these injuries, the Lions are kind of coming back to the pack a little bit. If the Seahawks can beat them with no tackles, the Falcons with Bijan and all these weapons and a good offensive line, I think can do the same. And we're getting a hook here at 3.5. So love it. Week 3 underdogs plus 7 or less, facing a favorite with a negative against the spread margin, which Detroit is about minus 2.8. 60-31-2 against the spread, 66% since 2005. Give me the Falcons.
By the way, you shorted me a point. It's not 9-7. I got my total too last week.
But you hit your Bills. Weren't the Bills your third?
First.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. It was written down as the third.
Falcons. I don't disagree taking the hook. I will say that I was semi-interested in maybe getting Detroit if the market kept coming down to 3, and I wanted to monitor all the injury situations, especially seeing how healthy Amon-Ra St. Brown is, because on the surface it's like, okay, I agreed with you that the Lions were a bit overvalued last week, overreaction from the Chiefs game, and they were at one point laying like 6 to Seattle, and now if this gets down to 3 against Atlanta. I know that there's some injuries, but it's not like a quarterback or that's a pretty big, drastic move for a Falcons team that has they're 2-0, but they're not the most impressive wins that you'll ever see, right? You're beating a rookie quarterback, then you beat a Packers team that was playing without 2 of its best weapons, 2 of its best offensive linemen. So, I do still have questions about the Falcons, and Goff, if he does at least have his wide receivers here and, Gibbs coming out of the backfield, he should have time. And
Montgomery, though, that's another injury.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying, like, these are all like the players that have been handling the ball for Detroit. They're two of their these are a lot of good players. Kind of even if some of them play, they're not going to be practicing in full. I just think Detroit's kind of out of sorts right now.
Yeah, no, you could be right. There's a tough game for me to gauge, but if Gibbs out there is, and you're going to go more pass heavy, you could have time to throw here. And if you're going to have some offensive line injuries, this isn't the worst team to go up against. And the Lions' run D has actually been okay. And if you dig into some of the metrics, they played, some decent offenses. The pass D, still a problem. And now you're dealing with injuries in the secondary. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, on paper, probably profiled as the most impactful player in that secondary. It's a big loss. But can Ritter really take advantage of the secondary? That's my primary concern. I would feel much more comfortable with maybe laying 3 with this coming down with Goff. If he has healthy weapons on the outside, he'll have enough time. But the injuries throw a wrench into it. You want to take this ball control Falcons offense. It's going to be in a lot of close games, and you're taking the hook. I don't mind it.
I mean, I just want to and then we'll wrap it up. But I'm just higher on the Falcons again. But you look at the Falcons so far; they're 12th in EPA per play on offense. Detroit is 15th, and the Falcons are 13th in EPA per play on defense, and the Lions are 25th. So, and the Falcons are allowing 4.2 yards per play on defense. I know it's Green Bay and it's who do they play on week 1? I don't even remember anymore. Carolina. Panthers. But the Falcons are doing they're doing what they have to do. I don't think you'd want to see anything more. I think they're a live dog in this spot.
Yeah, they certainly are. I mean, I do think. I mean, if you look at who the Lions played the Chiefs and then the Seahawks on a fast track. The Falcons are playing a rookie quarterback on the road in his first start, and then the Packers without 2 best offensive linemen, 2 best weapons. So I think that their defensive numbers are a little inflated early, but I don't mind you taking the hook here with the injury uncertainty. For my best bet I forgot how to talk for a second. For my first pick of the week 3 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts. Your Indianapolis Colts against my Baltimore Ravens. Look, in week 3, in general, this is true for the entire season in the NFL when I'm betting it, is looking to, sell high, buy low, try and time the market right. Okay, I think this team's at its peak, or okay, now I think this team is undervalued. And I think that's the case with the Ravens this week. They're 2-0 straight up. They're 2-0 against the spread. But if you dig into it, they play a week 1 home game against a rookie quarterback and an offensive line that was pieced together that week. They had no chance. Last week, they play Cincinnati, and Burrow clearly is hurt, and he is throwing balls into the ground. You're not going to beat an NFL team like the Ravens if your quarterback can't complete a pass. So they really have benefited from back-to-back weeks of other circumstances, right? Rookie quarterback playing in front of a hostile crowd with a piecemeal offensive line. And last week, Burrow was hurt. I mean, he might be out, who knows for how long, but you could see it in week 1. You could see it last week. And everyone has seemingly forgot about the Ravens' injuries, which there are now more of those injuries, and they're clustered. I mean, in the secondary, you now lost your slot. You're already without Marcus Williams. You're already without Marlon Humphrey. Didn't really matter when you're playing a rookie quarterback in the offensive line and hurt Joe Burrow, but it's eventually going to catch up to the Ravens. Oweh, Bowser, now both going to be on IR as well. On the offensive side of the ball, you already lost Dobbins. You're going to be without Stanley. You're going to be without Linderbaum, your 2 best offensive linemen. You're probably going to be without Beckham. I mean, it's never ending. We're talking about 8, 9 of your most important players on the team. I have liked what I've seen from Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson. He's getting rid of the ball really quick, a lot quicker than before. His underlying passing metrics are encouraging. But these injuries are going to catch up to the Ravens. I don't think Anthony Richardson's going to play. I haven't seen an update as of now. I think Gardner Minshew's actually an upgrade as of this point because he could throw it downfield. Richardson, I don't think, has attempted a ball past 20 yards. You got to attack this Ravens team with all their injuries in the secondary downfield. And I just think we're getting the Ravens a little overvalued in a weird spot. They, go on the road, get revenge against Cincy. They got Cleveland next week. Come home for the Colts. Could be some weather here, a lot of wind. It could be an ugly game where 8 points feels like a lot in your back pocket. And the Colts, over the first 2 weeks, are one of the teams that I've actually upgraded the most. I was super low on them. Anthony Richardson, better than I expected this early. And really, in the trenches, they've been a lot better. The offensive line, which has fallen off a cliff the past years, looks great. Ryan Kelly, the number 1 rated center in the league. Everything looks just more connected. And their defensive line has actually been really good. Now, granted, they've gone up against some undermanned and injured units, but that's what's going to happen again here. So I think this number is too high. And you brought this up last week. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson, are the new Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if you look at his numbers as an underdog or favorite of less than 3 points, I think he's 17-4 against the spread. But as a favorite over 3 points, the Ravens haven't been great. Harbaugh hasn't been great in the spot as a bigger favorite at home. I think this is a sleepy spot. Injuries catch up to him here. In the past, this is a completely random note, but just as a Ravens fan, I know this. Whenever we play the Colts, we get behind, and then Lamar has made a comeback in the fourth quarter. I think that's how it's going to play out here. So I'll happily take the 8 here. Minshew or Richardson, whoever it is. And hopefully if Minshew's near the goal line and I need a backdoor cover, he gets in this time.
Yeah, I agree. I've upgraded the Colts as well. They look a lot closer to mediocre than the dumpster fire I thought they were going to be. And I agree. I think, Minshew probably is less likely to turn the ball over. Also less likely to punch it in from the 1 yard line on whatever it was, but I digress. I can't hate on it. I think this is kind of a perfect, play, 2-0 Ravens team. You're getting, over a touchdown with a Colts team that I think is a little better than people expect. So I like that one too. All right. For my second pick, the third overall of the week 3 Sunday 6-pack, going with the New Orleans Saints +2 at the Green Bay Packers. And I think the Packers, they've looked pretty good, but I think they've been running a little bit lucky here. And I think the Saints team can get the win. So first of all, Green Bay, 5th on third down conversion rate, 1st in the red zone. They only outgained the Bears by 18. They were outgained by 11 by the Atlanta Falcons. And meanwhile, and also the Packers haven't turned the ball over yet. So Jordan Love, big interception machine all throughout his career. He's been taking care of the ball very well, but I don't know how much longer the Packers are going to go without turning the ball over. Meanwhile, I think the Saints haven't quite played as well as they should be playing. They are, they had that 4-point win. No, it was a 1 point win over the Titans, and then a 3-point win over the Carolina Panthers. When the Panthers get, the late touchdown, the Titans kick that field goal late to cover, and then the Saints, they sit on the ball at the end. So it could have been a little bit different, but the Saints outgained the Titans by 66. They outgained the Panthers by 102. So, they're plus 168 in terms of total yardage through 2 games, which I think is good. Carr talked about kind of a rough start for him, but his receivers are getting open. Michael Thomas looks great, which is always important when you play Green Bay because, they do have a corner that can shut down probably Olave. We'll see how they kind of deploy Jair, but I think the Saints have enough here in this spot to get it done against this Green Bay team that I just, they've kind of been going as well as it could be, and yet they still, that like, what is it, 24-12 entering the fourth against Atlanta, and they can't get it done. I just think this Green Bay team, they're doing a good job of kind of managing Jordan Love, but even if Aaron Jones comes back this week, I don't think he's gonna make a massive difference here. And Christian Watson, we'll see about him, but overall, I still think the Saints have more weapons. I think they have a defense that's just as good, if not better, especially with Joe Barry coordinating for the Packers. And I just think the Packers have been getting a little lucky here on third down, the red zone, and with turnovers. So give me the Saints +2, week 3 underdogs against a 1-1 straight up favorite that coming off a loss in week 2, 50-31 and 162% against the spread. Give me Saints.
I disagree with this one. I would need 3 to consider it, but I'm higher than the Packers than almost anybody. They have been fortunate in quite a few stats, but they've also been dealing with a lot of injuries, which we still don't have any clarity on. Watson was limited today as of 5 minutes ago. Jones did not practice. Bakhtiari did not practice. Jenkins did not practice.
Yeah.
So that's bad. That could be where you can make your case. Now, the Packers defense, I still like the matchup against Carr. It doesn't look comfortable yet in this offense.
But the receivers are getting open.
They are. But can you, the way you want to beat the Packers, and why I liked your Falcons play last week is like, if you were able to just maul and control the ball, you can run on them. So, one, do you think this is a big, a heavier use Taysom Hill game? And then 2, what running backs are left for the Saints? That would be my
Tony Jones, I'm guessing.
Is it just Tony Jones?
No, I mean, Kendre Miller might be healthy this week. I think he's been getting closer and closer. So, I mean, he's a pretty talented back. We'll see about him. I think Jamal Williams is banged up.
Jamal Williams. You have Eno Benjamin on IR. Kamara is suspended. So, yeah, it's like there's a chance it's just Tony Jones. So then do you go like heavier, use Taysom Hill some more? And I think
they've been saying they want to get him more involved, so that wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, the Saints, I don't really worry about the Saints running the ball. I mean, they're going to find somebody to run the ball. I mean, they could just hand it off to Rashid Shaheed and let him jet sweep it or something. Like the Saints always found a way to run the ball. I just need Carr to play a little better than he's played. But the receivers that if Carr can kind of get right, like the receivers are open, all 3 of them. So, and like for me, what it really comes down to with the Packers, you kind of hit on it, the injuries. Remember, this is a very young team. Like Jordan Love doesn't have much experience. All of the skill positions are very young, aside from, Aaron Jones and Dylan. And I just think, all these missed practices and, every time one guy gets healthy, another guy goes down, offensive lines. Like, I just think it's going to take some time for the Packers. And I think they're going to regress in those, like they're playing way above their head on third down and red zone and turnover, especially considering the inexperience and their injuries. So yeah, I just think that's going to kind of.
These injuries, if they lingered in this week, I don't mind this play at all. Because, Josh Myers has some weaknesses at center. So, like, if you don't have Bakhtiari and Jenkins, then, like, that problem gets magnified. And then Watson, not having him, it's just another weapon that you don't have. And I actually do think Aaron Jones matters. They always say running back don't matter. Because Dylan, I feel like they're stubborn on Dylan and where they drafted him. There's just no explosiveness there. And the difference between what he could do, not only running the ball, but especially in the passing attack, I think that's a pretty significant difference. Like it could be a couple first downs a game that could keep a few drives going. And Aaron Jones also could hit a home run at any point in time. And Dylan really doesn't have that capability. So yeah, with these injuries, I don't mind it. A little teaser. I like a teaser of the Saints. So I'm agreeing with you in some sense, but we'll talk about that later.
You made just one thing before we move on. You mentioned the first downs. Here's a crazy stat. The Packers have played the Bears and the Falcons, right? The Packers have 32 first downs on offense. Their opponents have 49. And they played the Bears and Falcons. Like that, I just see some regression coming for this team. I mean, that you're not supposed to be getting out like minus 17 in first downs when you played the Bears and Falcons. Granted, on the road, so that's the one thing working in the Packers' favor. But yeah. All right, where are you going?
But it's not like there's gonna be it's a crazy weather home advantage here or anything for an indoor team.
It's not Aaron Rodgers.
All right, for my second pick and the 4th overall of the Week 3 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns -3. Yes, I'm doing it. I am fading the underdog god, Mike Vrabel, after backing him the first 2 weeks as an underdog. He's now over 500 straight up as an underdog. But I do kind of separate, underdog of 3.5 or more versus 3 and below. And I just need the Browns to win this by at least a field goal, which I'm comfortable doing. This time is sitting at 4.5 and earlier in the week and has come down. I would not have played the Browns minus 4.5 at 3, which is the most important number in NFL, extremely key number. I'm comfortable playing the Browns here. So for a couple of reasons. Yes, they lose Nick Chubb. He's one of the best backs in the NFL. But the Browns, I think, can still have a productive rushing attack with whoever they're going to have back there. We saw that last week with their offensive line. And in this particular matchup, Deshaun Watson has been great throwing the deep ball, and he's been a little inconsistent. But you're going to want to attack this Tennessee team through the air a little bit more, especially with some of their potential injuries on the back end, which I think, Hooker and Fulton aren't 100% again this week and don't play, especially if they don't play. I think there's going to be some opportunities for the Browns to move the ball. But most importantly, I just don't think the market is really appreciating how dominant this Browns defense is. I love this Browns defense coming into the season. I thought it was going to be the most improved unit in the entire NFL. First of all, you hired a defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. You just needed to hire any new defensive coordinator to bring organization to this defense. Did that. They needed to be more aggressive. They're doing that. Blitzing, moving guys around. They needed to add bulk to improve their run defense. Did that. Lead the NFL in rush success rate. Added Juan Thornhill on the back end. They already have 3 good corners. You could argue this is a top 3 defense in the NFL. Everyone's talking about the Dallas defense. The Cleveland defense statistically has been better. And they didn't play Zach Wilson, although Kenny Pickett's pretty similar. So, I mean, look, 25% success rate, 25 and 27 in their first 2 games against division opponents. Last year, fewer than 6 games total across the NFL where a defense had a success rate that low. They should be 2-0, if not for 2 defensive touchdowns against Pittsburgh. A team hasn't sniffed the red zone against them yet. And now you're going to get that pass rush going up against the Tennessee offensive line, which I still have a ton of questions about. Skronsky's probably out again. And a quarterback who cannot move. I just think this is going to be a long day for Tannehill. I think this is also a rally game, like one of those intangible emotions where you've already seen Newsom come out and say, we're all dedicating this to Chubb. So I think the Browns really come out with their hair on fire. It's their defense that's going to be the difference against Tannehill. And, Derrick Henry hasn't gotten going yet, but the Browns' run D's been great. This defense so undervalued in the market to me. At a field goal, it's a buy. I'm willing to go against the dog god Vrabel. Nothing but respect, Mike. I wouldn't have faded you at 3.5, 4, 4.5, but at 3, I got to do it here. I think the Titans are going to struggle to get to 10 to 13 points.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not there with you on this one. And I agree with you on the Browns defense. My issue is the Titans are a pretty elite run defense. And so, yeah, now that means you have to rely on Deshaun Watson. But I just don't trust Deshaun Watson yet. And I feel like Deshaun Watson can be the equalizer for whatever, Tennessee doesn't have in terms of skill or whatever else. We already know they're going to have the intangible too with Vrabel. So, call that a wash. But if Cleveland can't run the ball, Deshaun Watson's been under 6 yards an attempt in 5 out of his 8 starts with the Cleveland Browns. He's turned the ball over. I feel like this is just kind of a toss-up game here, between these 2 teams. Because I mean, whatever you think about Tannehill, and yes, Deshaun Watson can move more, but I mean, the end result has been almost worse for Deshaun Watson. 5.6 yards an attempt this year, 6.2 in his career with the Browns, 5.7 adjusted. I just don't trust this guy right now. And now he's playing his first full game without Chubb in that backfield. So it's kind of like the Pittsburgh game all over again. I know turnovers are kind of fluky, but Watson really hasn't shown me enough. So I wouldn't dare go against Vrabel in this spot, but I'll root for you.
Browns front decides this game, just like the Steelers front decided last week game. That's That's my prediction. But yeah, now it's down at 3. I'm more than comfortable playing it after Tennessee gets an overtime win and the Browns lose a game that they should have won. They should be 2-0. Their defense, if it was defense was getting more pub, this line would be over a field goal. I'm more than comfortable here. And I think the Browns come out with an inspired effort. And yeah, we got to hope Watson doesn't turn it over. But there's also pretty high chance Tannehill does that as well. So
he rebounded.
Here we go, Brownies.
Are the Chargers, man, we got to talk about the Chargers at some point. But let's go to my third pick, the 5th overall of the week number 3, Sunday 6-pack. Going with the Houston Texans, plus 9.5 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
Houston, who's playing O-line?
So Tunsil actually practiced today. Tunsil did practice on Wednesday.
That's good.
That's big.
Trying to keep up with their O-line is
man,
it's a full-time job.
It is. But listen, we're talking about over a possession in a divisional game with a, I think it works in the Texans' favor more because, they have, the new coaching staff and new players. And, I think D'Amico is going to kind of find his footing. Hopefully they get at least one of the safeties back. I think that really hurt him last week. But, Tunsil practicing is big. But Houston in the red zone this year on offense. And because, CJ Stroud has looked pretty good, all things considered, especially when you look around the league, look at like Bryce Young, for example. And Richardson, can't stay on the field, but Stroud's a good. Now the issue for Houston, 1 of 6 in the red zone, 16.7%. That is dead last in the league. I think Houston's going to be able to move the ball on this Jacksonville team, and we don't expect the team to go 17% for the red zone all year. And by the same token, Houston's opponents, 78% in the red zone. That's 4th worst. So I think you're going to have, these numbers tend to be a little more volatile. I think you're going to see a little bit of regression here, especially for the Houston offense, which I do think looks good. I think Tank Dell is going to surprise some people. He's one of my favorite rookie receivers. I think Stroud.
I love Tank Dell, by the way. And by the way, the Houston Cougars are a disaster. They really miss him just as a college shutout. But
I can't even imagine. Yeah, like the minute I started watching him, I was like, this guy is probably already the best receiver on the Texans. Now, Nico Collins has been playing really well as well. So I don't think offense is going to be the issue here. Don't love this Jags defense. And on the other side, Jacksonville offensive line still a little bit banged up, still without, their left tackle who's suspended. And we've seen this kind of inconsistency from Trevor Lawrence. So, can the Texans keep it within 1 possession? I think they can. They're gonna get a cover and start hitting in the red zone at some point. Now, when you look at Houston, they actually outgained both of their opponents this year. They outgained Baltimore, they outgained Indianapolis, but it's just the red zone's been a real issue. So this Jacksonville team, I still don't think Jacksonville's taking that next step. They needed like this, the Colts run defense to just part like Moses, and then they had 1st and goal at the 2 and they didn't get it in, so the Jags covered that one, and it was a 10-point win, and then they scored 9 points against the Chiefs at home. So I'm still got questions about the Jags. I think this Houston team is a bit underrated. I think they've been a bit unlucky, and CJ Stroud, considering the first 2 games he's had, I think, he's only going to get better. So I want to kind of buy low on Houston here. This is a big number for a divisional game. 0-2 straight up underdogs against the favorite with at least 1 win in week 3, 41-25-1, 62% against the spread, 34-14 against the spread, 71% since 2010. And teams that are 0-2 against the spread and that are underdogs in week 3, 57-35 against the spread, 62%. So the trends back Houston. I like the quarterback. I think the offense, it does enough here to keep it within 1 possession against the Jaguars.
Yeah, Jags had no business covered against the Colts. And then last week, bad loss at home. They only put 9 points up on the Chiefs to lose by 8 to the Chiefs in a game where the Chiefs had 12 penalties for 100 yards and 3 turnovers and only scored, twice in 4 red zone trips. That Jags offensive performance was disgusting. Chiefs 6.2 yards per play, 400 total yards of offense. You might not know that from the 17 points, but there was a bunch of penalties and turnovers and red zone lack of execution. Jags only 4.2 yards per play against the Chiefs. Bad. I don't have a really strong feel on it, but if I was going to bet it, it would be Houston or nothing. I think that they're definitely there's going to be some value in Houston. Maybe it starts this week moving forward, especially as their offensive line just gets healthier. That offense, the hardest thing to implement from a scheme perspective is just the offensive line continuity, the reads, and it usually takes some time. You got a lot of moving parts. So as they're continue to figure it out, I think that execution in the red zone, scoring efficiency, all that is going to continue to improve.
Yeah, this is the spot you want to fade Trevor Lawrence. He is 2-6 against the spread as a favorite, 0-4 against the spread as a favorite by 4 or more points. So this is the fade Lawrence spot as well. But where are you going for your third?
Yeah, for my third and final pick of the Week 3 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders minus 2.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't really value any travel trends, but this is one that still I think holds a little bit of weight. East Coast team on a short week going across the country to play in primetime on the West Coast. I think teams in that spot over the past 25 years, 8-16 against the spread, just seems to throw off your body clock, less preparation. But this is primarily a major fade of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I have not seen anything to give me any confidence that they can score with any consistency. You have Johnson. You have Johnson who's now on IR. It doesn't matter. They can't call. Their offensive line is still a mess. But I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy. Don't believe in him. And most importantly, he's not really getting help around him. That offensive line, he's got wide receiver injuries. I love Pickens, but that's about it. Matt Canada is terrible. He's running an outdated offense. He doesn't use any of the modern tools that all the other best offenses in the league are using. This offense needs to be blown up, and I'm just not a believer in Pickett. The Steelers didn't sniff the red zone. They didn't sniff it last week against the Browns. It was this pathetic offensive performance. And then on the other side of the ball, on defense, I think this defense is a tad bit overrated. Against the run, without Cam Hayward, the numbers fall off a cliff. We saw that last week. Didn't matter if Chubb was in there or not. Browns are running wild, no matter who they handed the ball to, running all over, everywhere. Minka Fitzpatrick, also banged up. He's out of the hospital. He might play, but if he's out, that secondary, then it becomes really problematic. You got to hope that Josh Jacobs can run forward. Now, he's out of shape, and teams are stacking the box now and daring Jimmy G to beat them with his arm. But I think he can get rid of the ball quick here. The secondary can't really cover the Raiders receivers. And I don't care if the Raiders G is bad. And I don't care if the Raiders went to Buffalo and got blown out last week. I expected that. I don't like this Pittsburgh team. Terrible spot after a lucky emotional win going out to the West Coast in prime time. This is the type of game that Jimmy G can win. Don't like this at 3, but anything under 3, this is a pure fade of this Pittsburgh offense that is a complete mess right now. And then add in the injuries and the situation. I'm happy to lay under 3 with the Raiders.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. Here's a fun stat for Pittsburgh. Only one team has fewer red zone trips than the Chicago Bears, who have 3. And it is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have 2. 1 a game. Not good. All right. That is going to do it for the Week 3 Sunday 6-pack. To recap, Stuck has the Indianapolis Colts plus 7.5 at Baltimore, the Cleveland Browns -3 at home against the Titans, and the Las Vegas Raiders -2.5 at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll have a write-up for that game at actionnetwork.com in the app, by the way, so be sure to check that out. And I have the Falcons plus 3.5 at Detroit, the Saints plus 2 at Green Bay, and the Houston Texans plus 9.5 at the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is our week 3 Sunday 6-pack. All right, that was our Sunday 6-pack, and now it is time for our week 3 Coaches Pep Talk. This week's Coaches Pep Talk is our producer's longtime favorite pep talk. Shout out to Matt Mitchell. It comes to us from Coach Wally in the 1991 film Necessary Roughness.
You know how to play winning hard-nosed football? Play like a goddamn wild man. No, like a goddamn rampaging beast. And that's the way you're gonna do it. You go out there, you tear their fucking heads off, and you shit down their necks. Let us pray.
And we are going to dedicate this to the Chicago Bears. I mean, they have no coaches. The Bears and the Chargers. Let's go Bears and Chargers. Chargers defense, because the Chargers defense has been the worst defense of football. So it's like they have no coaches, even though they're supposed to have a defensive coach. And then the Bears, they're just coaching backwards. So Bears.
Yeah, Eberflus came out and said he won't verify if they still have a defensive coordinator. Maybe the Bears should hire Staley as their defensive coordinator. I think that would work for everybody.
I would like to see an experiment of like a team without coaches for a week. Like just let the guys go out there and just let the green dot on defense call the plays. Let Justin Fields just draw up some plays and run around back there. I guarantee you the Bears will do better than whatever this monstrosity is. Yeah, exactly. Stuck, you and I know that more memories are made when you're there for live NFL action. And when you need tickets, Ticketmaster has got you covered as the official marketplace of the NFL. Ticketmaster gives you more ways to find your perfect seat. Their interactive seat map gives you 360-degree previews of your section to make sure you have the best view of those pivotal plays. And if your plans change, Ticketmaster gives you more flexibility to sell or transfer your tickets. Plus, mobile tickets make getting in on game day a breeze. And you can even customize your Ticketmaster app to rep your favorite team's colors. Find tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/NFL. All right, time for our favorite totals of the week. All right, Stuck, as I mentioned, I lost my total by half point to 1.5 depending where you got it, and you cashed your Niners Rams. Where are you going this week?
Well, this is shocking. I cashed 2 overs on the show last week. We're going back to another over. This might be the last one of the year. I tend to look for unders, but an over popped. We're going the Broncos Dolphins over. The Broncos, I still think the market is low on totals on Broncos games because there's still like this sentiment that Russ sucks and the Broncos defense is respectable. But it's like the opposite now. The Broncos lead the NFL in points per drive. The difference, Peyton has revamped this offense. A lot of it is his scripted portion. His scripted plays have been amazing. But the Broncos couldn't do that last year. They wouldn't score until like the garbage time. But his scripting has been amazing, and then the Broncos' offense has fallen off in the second half. But I like the use of more play action, extra blockers, and the offense is definitely way more competent than it was last year. It's just way better schooled, and the defense is a disaster. They replaced. Well, they had Vic Fangio, who's one of the most well-respected defensive coordinators, who's going to be on the other side for this game, but I'll get to that in a second, with Evero, who I love, and I think he's a fantastic defensive coordinator. He's gone. Vance Joseph comes in. I have no idea what's going on with this defense. Joseph loves the blitz, but there's no rhyme or reason behind his blitzing. There's too much zone on the back end. Damari Mathis has been. I can't even describe how bad he's been. He's obviously by far the worst rated corner.
I mentioned him last week. I was like, that was what worried me more than anything with that Broncos game was Damari Mathis, like singularly, and he got roasted again.
Yeah, got roasted again. They're not adjusting then. Like that's they only targeted Surtain like twice, but they're not adjusting. They just Hal. I mentioned before. I think Hal went 7 or 8 of 8 on screen passes. in the second half for 92 yards, 13.1 average, basically won them the game. They never adjusted. Now, I get Kareem Jackson he got thrown out, and then there was an injury to Turner Yell, and then it was a mess in the secondary. But this defense just isn't making any plays. The linebackers are playing well, and Surtain. And people just avoid Surtain. And I don't know how you fix things in a week. I think Joseph's going to end up getting fired, but I don't know how you fix things in a week going up against this prolific offense that is rolling. I mean, maybe you could argue that you stick Surtain on Tyreek. I just don't think there's any way to blanket to shadow Tyreek Hill with anybody with the way that they move him around. It's just not possible. But that would be the game because Waddle is in concussion protocol. But apparently he's progressing well. But McDaniel's going to cook the rest of the secondary and just take advantage of all the matchups they have. Broncos aren't getting pressure. That is just nothing for me here. Now, on the other side, the Miami defense, not doing anything for me. They, obviously they were in a shootout with the Chargers who scored at will. And then last week, even against a bad Patriots offense, the Patriots were in Miami territory 6 times on drives that they didn't score any points. And I think Denver will be able to move the ball. What Denver's doing is they're like efficiently moving the ball. There's not really a lot of explosiveness. Well, that's what Fangio gives you. So I think the Broncos would be happy to take that. They're going to move up and down the field, I think. I think they're going to get points early on in the scripted portion. And the Miami defense, Howard might be washed. They really miss Ramsey. And I just am not a fan of it. It's going to take time for Fangio to get this right. Usually there's some growing pains. So there's no slowing down this Miami offense, but especially I don't see this Denver defense slowing down. There's no reason why Miami can't get to 30 plus. And I think Denver's good for 17 to 20.
Yeah, Miami overs, Denver overs, both are going to be profitable, at least early in this year until the market fully adjusts. So I like that as well. For my total, I'm going with the Steelers.
Oh, by the way, one last thought on that.
Yep.
Dolphins are all the O-line. I want to give them credit because they're playing a lot better than I thought. They've been building that offensive line, but so far so good. That can really take this offense to another level. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, McDaniel, he knows how to scheme, man. Okay. Yeah, I'm going Steelers, Raiders under 43. And, we kind of started to talk about it. The Steeler offense, even against, a Raider defense that, we kind of think of as one of the worst and probably is one of the worst in the National Football League. I still think the Steelers are going to struggle here. And if they do score, I don't think it's going to be, explosive. I think they're going to have to kind of go up and down the field, but they are last in the National Football League in points per drive at 0.8. I already mentioned it. Last in the league in red zone trips with just 2. And on the other side, this Raider offense, they've really slowed the tempo down this year with Jimmy G. They're 29th in seconds per play, and that's even with a game where they lost by 28, included. That's one of their 2 games, and still they are in the bottom 4 in terms of pace. And I think this Raider offense I think the Raiders are the right side, like you said, but I do think this Raider offense is going to struggle a little bit because, first of all, Jimmy G hasn't been sacked yet. I think that's going to turn around. But I do think the Raiders will continue to play this slow pace because they're finally probably going to be able to run the ball. They have not been able to run the ball in the first 2 weeks. Now that's concerning, in and of itself, because last year, if there's one thing working for the Raiders, it was their run game. But they have 61 against the Broncos, 55, against Buffalo. That's not going to cut it. They've failed to crack 270 total yards of offense yet. So I think this Raider team is, playing Pittsburgh, nothing's going to come super easy, but I do think they'll kind of stick with Jacobs here. I don't think Jimmy G will have to do too much. And, these teams did match up. Now, it was Derek Carr, but these teams matched up fairly recently. Week 16 of last year, 13-10 game was the final result with the Steelers pulling it out late on a comeback. So Kenny Pickett, if he doesn't, get a last second comeback, I mean, this is like a 10-7 game. So, and that's like 5 games ago for these teams. So I don't think Jimmy G upgrades the Raiders offense that massively over Derek Carr to where we're expecting a ton here. So I think it's going to be a hard fought, slower paced game where, the Steelers are going to kind of make the Raiders defense actually look solid. And the Raiders are just going to run on the Steelers because that's what you do. That's what teams have been having success doing. And I think before you know it, you're going to look up in the third quarter and it's going to be like, 13-7 Raiders or 13-6 Raiders or something like that. So give me the Steelers Raiders under, and also got some pretty good Mike Tomlin road under trends, road unders since 2014 for the Steelers, 49, 23, and 1, 68%, covering by 3.4 points per game. So yeah, under 43. Raiders. Steelers.
Yeah, Jacobs. Jimmy G's gotta the thing with Carr did is he would throw it downfield, and he was willing to take those shots, which Jimmy G's not doing. Jimmy G hasn't been sacked because he just gets rid of the ball so quick, which will be a good thing to help neutralize that Steelers pass rush. But that also means teams are bringing their safeties down this year at a way higher frequency than they did last year. I also think Jacobs is not in full tip-top shape after his offseason, and it wasn't in camp or preseason. So it might be, he didn't really get going until like week 6 last year anyway. So yeah, it might be just some inefficient moving the ball for both teams. And I just trust the Raiders offense to make a couple more plays, but yeah, this one should be ugly.
All right. So yes, Dolphins, Broncos over 48.5, Raiders, Steelers under 43. Now it's time for our favorite teaser of the week. All right. If you're unfamiliar with teasers, it's when you get an allotted number of points, usually 6, to parlay 2 or more spread bets. So the standard is a 2-team 6-point teaser, which would mean a 7-point favorite becomes a 1-point favorite. A 7-point underdog becomes a 13-point underdog. For instance, Stuck. I know you have some content out where you talk about, teasing through the key numbers and all of that. So tell everybody about that, and then go right into your teaser for this week.
Yeah, just Google Stucky teaser guide, but essentially couple quick rules. Never tease through 0, never tease totals. And ideally you want to tease, through key numbers 3 and 7, and lower the total, the better, because there is less variance in the scoring. So having said that, my favorite teaser of the week is we're going to take 2 dogs that are catching 2.5, 2 points in games with low projected totals and tease them up over a touchdown. And that is the Saints, we talked about earlier. It's really hard for me to see the Packers running away with this, with the way that the Saints play D, especially when you take into account the Packers injuries. And then we're going to bring him back, Mr. Wilson, Zach Wilson, bringing him back into the fold. But we're going to get 6 points with Zach, which is important. And I think that this Jets defense is going to show up this week. They feel like they were embarrassed last week, and they really want this one. They haven't beat the Patriots in 8 years. Bill Belichick has owned Zach Wilson, which is kind of concerning. But this game should be super ugly. I think the total is 37. The Patriots offense is just so limited. Always happy to take over a touchdown in a low total game against them. So Saints and Jets for me.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going Saints and Bills. This Bills team has lost, 4 times since the start of last year. 2 have come against the Jets. One of them was an overtime on a punt return. One of them was that ridiculous sequence of events against the Vikings. And then one of them was that ridiculous sequence of events against the Miami Dolphins. So this Bills team, they usually do win big, but I don't love laying 6.5 on the road. We saw Washington go down and get frisky and come back and against Denver. So I'll tease the Bills down, expect them to keep winning. here and get to 2-1, and then tease the Saints.
Yeah, Washington fraudulent 2-0. I mean, they could have lost to Arizona at home, and they were down 3 touchdowns to the Broncos, and came back and won. So 2 wins against teams that aren't going to stiff the playoffs.
Yeah, so Buffalo, and I already talked about New Orleans. I think it's a great teaser spot. I don't foresee Green Bay blowing anyone out, but I think New Orleans wins this game, but love getting the 8 here. So teasing New Orleans to 8, Buffalo to 0.5 point, and you got New Orleans to +8 and the Jets to +8.5. That is our teaser for week number 3. As a reminder, Action Network Podcast is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION, ACTION, when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, now it's time for our Underdog Moneyline Parlay. Didn't hit the parlay, but we've each hit one so far.
Let's put them together this week.
Yeah, we got to get them together this week. But, either way, if you just followed, you should be profitable on these, just betting even them individually. But we always want to hit the parlay. So where are you going?
Let's go. So when I do this, my favorite way to do this is when I'm looking for, with a Moneyline Underdog, is look for some uncertainty and some variance. So let's go to Seattle and take the Carolina Panthers on the money line. Nice little price here. They're close to, I think, a 6-point underdog at the moment. And the variance here is twofold. One, I already talked about Carolina's defensive coordinator, I'm a big fan of, and he's gonna get some quarterbacks this year in a couple weeks and just confuse the hell out of them, and they're gonna make a couple key mistakes. I can easily see Geno Smith doing that here. And additionally, on the other side of the ball, where I think there's more variance, is Bryce Young. Hasn't looked great so far. He's only had 2 starts. Your first one on the road, your second one against a really good Saints D. Now, we're going to learn a lot about him. I'm really interested to watch this game to learn about where he could potentially go. Not just this year, but beyond. Because against Seattle, you should have time. And he's going to have time in the pocket. Can he make the throws this week against the Seattle D that does not look great? If he shows signs of life, I think it'll be promising. If he doesn't have a good game this week, he's not making the throws, it could be a worrying sign. But we still don't know a ton about him, and he's going to have time. And when he has time, he theoretically should be able to make all of the throws. So, yeah, I'm gonna buy low on Carolina here. Hope for some defensive coordinator magic, and hope for Bryce Young to kind of have a little bit of a breakout game against a defense that is pretty conducive to going against as for a rookie quarterback. So let's go with the Panthers.
How would your number change if Andy Dalton started?
I don't think it would change much.
Okay.
But I think I would, if Andy Dalton started, I think I would, as of right now, I would upgrade the Panthers by like 0.5 point. So, the line would change by about 0.5 point. That's just because I know more about Andy Dalton, and there's, rookie quarterbacks, you're supposed to assume that they're going to struggle. But I wouldn't take the money line underdog if it was Andy Dalton starting.
Okay. Yeah, because Bryce Young did miss practice today with an ankle injury, and they signed Jake Luton to the practice squad, which is somewhat concerning. So that is something to monitor.
There's theoretically, from a mathematical standpoint, the line would improve for me, so I don't mind throwing it out there for this. But my reasoning for having more variance is I would like for Young to be out there who has higher upside. But there's also a chance here that you get a really good scheme and Geno makes a bunch of mistakes, and you see the Seattle go down as a favorite in this range at home for the second time this year. So let's hope that Evero's in his bag.
Yeah, they did. Carolina did beat Seattle 30-24 last year with, I think it was Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold only threw for 120 yards and they got it done. But it's going to have to be defensive because, at least scheme-wise, because I do not like Frank Reich and this, was it Thomas Brown, I think?
The offense is hard to watch.
It's another one. It's getting overshadowed because you got, Eberflus, well, it was a Getsy, I guess it is, doing so poorly. But I don't think we're going to be looking too fondly on Panthers offensive coaching either. But yeah, the defense has been very good. Just got to hope they can weather that storm with J.C. Horn and Shaq Thompson being out. All right, for me, I'm going, and you talked about it, I'm going to go with the Jets. Plus 125. They finally get this win against the Patriots that's been eluding them. Listen, I think the defense, it's just a matchup of two very good defenses. I think the Jets are the better defense. You got the Jets as a home dog. And I'm, like you said, Patriots offense, it's like the Patricia. It's not Patricia bad or whatever, Joe Judge, whatever that was.
It's not Steelers bad.
Right. Yeah. It's improved, but for all the improvement, you essentially benched your prize free agent signing, Juju Smith-Schuster. He's playing like 50% of the snaps if he's lucky. You still got, your rookie fumbled last week and got benched. Zeke Elliott doesn't have much left in the tank. So it's still really Ramondre Stevenson, Hunter Henry, and maybe a wide receiver like Kendrick Bourne here and there, or Parker, but it's not enough for me to be scared of Zach Wilson in this spot, especially when you're talking about a money line dog. I think that's the Jets now it's inside of 3. Taking them to cover the 2.5. Might as well just take the money line here. But I think just two good defenses, and I think Zach Wilson looked a little bit, but I know his numbers are terrible, but he faced the Cowboys and the Bills, two of the best defenses in the league. Patriots are good. I don't know if they're on that level. So, yeah, give me the Jets. Zach.
Patriots dealing with some injuries on the offensive line and in the secondary as well. Worth noting. So, all right, here we go with Jets and the Panthers.
Yeah, plus 575. Nice little juicy one. If you parlay him this week. So we'll see how that goes. And now it's time for Best of the Rest, the games we haven't covered in any other segment, but are still, as they say, meaningful to some. All right, first up, we got the Chargers at the Vikings. And this line has been flip-flopping within the one. As we record this at BetMGM, the Chargers are favored by 1 on the road. I would have been a little more interested if the Chargers were dogs, but now that they're favorites, nothing I really want to do here. I just don't know why this defense has been so bad. The
dead
talent,
last DVOA, dead last.
And it's not just, they give up 27 to the, what was it? Yeah, 27 to the Titans. They give up 36 to the Dolphins. And then they give up that huge comeback to the Jaguars. They're switching guys. What is it? Jacer Taylor now is going to take over the star. Samuel, he played the star the first week. Then he went outside. J.C. Jackson is toast. A liability. Yeah,
what happened to him?
But I think it is. I think it's, Staley, we know his reputation. He's a guy, supposed to be like an analytical guy and great mind. But I think the defense is just too complicated because we're just seeing coverage busts and all these type of things. And, with the Rams, when they had like a lot more like of a veteran group back there, it worked. But these guys, it's just not working for these guys. And they have talent, they have edge rushers. The cornerbacks are solid. They shouldn't be getting burned like this. You have Derwin, So yeah, now you're playing the Vikings with Jefferson. Like if there's one thing the Vikings could do, it's throw the ball around the yard, So
yeah, and if Staley's not scheming up this D, and O'Connell can scheme up some plays too, and they have the talent. And I have no idea what to expect in this game. You also have Herbert, you have Herbert going up against a defense that has nothing on the back end. But Brian Flores, we saw it last week. He's probably going to come up with a tricky game plan, at least at first. But there's only so much the Vikings can do for so long with that personnel. So it doesn't surprise me this total is ticked up. I have no idea what to expect. It's the Vikings regression monster revenge, coming for a vengeance from last year. They're actually playing well. They arguably could be 2-0, but they just lose every fumble, get touchbacks, reaching into the end zone. All the things that never happened last year are all happening at once. Versus the team in the Chargers who find ways to lose, who also could be 2-0. But both these teams are 0-2, and they're finding ways to lose. One from turnover and luck regression, another because they're just charging. I have no idea what to expect. This is a great live betting game. Whoever's down in this game is probably going to win, and then they'll probably go up, and then you can bet the other team live. Good trading game. There should be a lot of scoring. No idea what to expect. But I will say it's probably each of their team's seasons. You go to 0-3. I think historically it's like a 2% chance you're going to make the playoffs. And by the way, we'll talk about this game next. We were talking about the Chiefs, the Chiefs are 0-1. They lose to the Lions at home. This division is going to go some other way. Well, now that the Chiefs win, the Chargers are 0-2. The Raiders lost. The Broncos are 0-2. And the Chiefs' upcoming schedule, Bears, Jets, Vikings, Broncos, Chargers, Broncos. Chiefs might have this division locked up by week 8. But no, I have no idea what's going to happen in this game. Good live betting game, though. It should close at a pick.
Yeah, if I had to choose, I would say the Chargers find a way.
I would choose the Chargers because their defense is more talented.
Yeah,
and that will, I think, be the difference. But maybe Flores makes up for it with the scheme because the scheme isn't working for the Chargers. Both offenses should have advantages this game. It should be fun.
I mean,
maybe bet overtime. Yes, overtime. Yes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we got Nick Giffin's overtime model. We got to see what that's looking like. It's been crushing lately. So everybody go check that out. But yeah, the Vikings, if the Falcons can beat the Lions and the Saints beat the Packers, which is not out of the question, both are short dogs. The Vikings could go 0-3 and still be in the division race. No one would be above 500 in this division.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but the Chargers, I think it's kind of a must because they're going to have to come out with their best because if they go 0-3, I mean,
in the AFC, you already have the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Browns. You have too many wild card teams that are going to be competent to climb over, and then you're not catching the Chiefs from 0-3.
Yeah, and Staley, I mean, if they start 0-3,
is he gone?
He might be gone.
Yeah.
So yeah,
they would need a spark because then you got to win 7 in a row or something.
Yeah. Whereas the Vikings, I mean, yes, it's tough to go 0-2 and 0-3, but O'Connell has that 13-4 season to kind of rest on at least. So.
Yeah, and they're kind of quietly rebuilding. They're not and the Chargers, it's like Herbert on his contract right now. You got to win that. They're trying to win now.
Yep. It's inexplicable the way the Chargers just find a way, but if I had a gun in my head, I'd pick the Chargers, but like you said, probably a better live game. I don't know if there's a massive edge on either side. Dallas at Arizona. The Cardinals are 12.5 point underdogs at home. The total is 43.5. We talked about this on the happy hour. It's no interest in the Cardinals, right? And
I'm not laying 12.5, and I'm not taking the Cardinals against this defense. Pass.
For what it's worth, Dak Prescott 25-12 against the spread, 68% versus sub 500 teams. So
and he'll be under no pressure here. I mean, Dallas should theoretically do what they want and then get into the backfield, cause chaos. But they could be up 17 in a blowout, and then Arizona gets a backdoor touchdown.
How would you feel about a tease? So Dallas would just have to win by a touchdown, essentially.
I can't. My brain won't let me do that. But, it's hard for me to see them losing by under a touchdown.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up with Survivor. Told you, Stuck. I warned you about this Wilson shit, man.
Unreal.
I don't think you need to. You never need to survive on Russell Wilson. Like, that's just not. There's 32 teams in the league. Yeah, that unfortunately didn't work out. I'm gonna go with the Chiefs this week. There's a couple of big favorites this week. The Giants were. That was no business coming back in that game. But when I look at the Chiefs' schedule down the line, and obviously, teams could get hurt or get their quarterback hurt. But as it stands, most of the other games that I would have the Chiefs as sizable favorites are going to be in the division. And the Chiefs do win divisional games. They have a great record, but still not my favorite, with Survivor to choose to pick teams in divisional games, because there's just more uncertainty and weird things tend to happen. So, going forward, I don't really, see a bunch like there's the Jets but that's on the road. It's not as good as Chicago at home. Denver, that's a divisional game. That's really it as far as, gimmies on the Chiefs schedule. They got Cincinnati, they got Buffalo, they go to Lambeau, they go to Foxborough. So I'm just gonna use the Chiefs now against this Chicago Bear team. Maybe the Bears will kind of rebound a little bit, but I cannot see the Bears winning this game.
Yeah, I've no idea what's going on with the Bears. Like it's really bad. Fields obviously hasn't progressed, but the coaching is really bad. Look, their defensive coordinator is nowhere to be found. Eberflus won't confirm if he's still employed. Fields came out and said he's playing too robotic, but then today he said coaching, which it is. They're not running him. That's his biggest strength.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 design runs through 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah. So,
ridiculous.
But coming out and saying that, and then the defense, there's a lot of turmoil going on. I think they're going to have to put their left tackle, his name escapes me right now, on IR. There's more movement along the offensive line. The defense is obviously bad. This is the ultimate buy low spot. Everyone is just shitting on the Bears. We lost 12 straight overall. I can't get there. I can't. I'm not betting the Chiefs, but I don't mind it for Survivor either.
Yeah, usually we look at these big spreads and 0-2 team.
Because the Chiefs are awful at these big spreads, buy low spot. But I can't back this Bears team right now. Unless I knew, like, if they were going to unleash Fields running the ball this week, I would consider it. But I don't trust them to. Yeah,
I'm sure they'll get back to it. There's just so much discourse about it. I'm sure they changed something up. But even so, like this Chiefs defense, I think that's kind of the underrated development of this new year. That we
2 weeks in a row against good offenses.
Yeah, they held the Jags to 9, and we know Trevor Lawrence is inconsistent. So, but still 9 points against anyone.
Lions to 14 without Chris Jones.
Yeah. So, this is something I'm monitoring because, if this defense is going to be that good, it's going to be a short number, but might have to invest in some Chiefs Super Bowl futures.
Chiefs under. Chiefs are be now an under team.
I know, right? Yeah, against Chicago's defense though, not an under I want to take. Yeah, it's like all the things I would want to do for this game, I just can't bring myself to do it.
Agreed. Pass.
Yep.
But good for Survivor.
All right, that is going to do it for the Week 3 Action Network podcast. We'll be back every Thursday all season long. You can hear more of me this week with my guy Sean Kerner talking fantasy, DFS, and all that good stuff on the Fantasy Flex Pod. We also have the Projections Pod right here on this channel, so check that out. And you can hear Stuck talking college ball over on Big Bets on Campus every Friday morning right here. And you can find Stuck on Twitter. X. Whatever you're calling it these days, at Stucky2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money.